Alright guys, alright. Hey, it's been a while. Don't worry, we haven't gone anywhere. We have been here, we've been working in the background, doing all sorts of stuff. But really, the news of Star Citizen, we took a bit of a break. Just generally, just to recharge the batteries and stuff like that. But I do have to talk about this. And today we don't have a ferret because he is working, and maybe we might get him on tomorrow to do a live show sort of thing. But guys, we have some really big news regarding server meshing, and it's pretty much what we've been saying the whole time. So let's go through, let's break it all down, and let's talk about it. So this is the letter for the chairman, and the reason why this is so big is because they actually talk about persistence and the roadmap to Pyro, the roadmap to server meshing, the roadmap to 4.0. So a lot of it is just, you know, like stuff like, hey, we talked about this, we talked about that in the past. We all know what they've talked about, it's all been good. But the biggest thing is when you start getting down towards here. So Paul Rendell, our Director of Engineering for Online Tech, spun up a server, populated the entity graph to its initial state along with the replication layer, then connected a client, placed down a series of small objects like cans on the surface of Aberdeen, along with an 890 jump and an anvil arrow. So they spun up a server, they connected it to the replication graph, and they put a whole bunch of objects on the surface of Aberdeen, right? He then killed the server and the client, right? So dedicate it, sort of thing. The server was restarted. We did not populate the entity graph, had already previously seeded on the initial startup. And then connected a client, warped to Aberdeen, and everything was there as he placed. They 30k'd the server, spun up the servers respun up again. It took the information that was there from the entity graph, reloaded it into that server, and then when he connected a client to that server, everything was still there. This is huge. This is monumentally explosive. This is persistence actually working. It's no more theory, it's no more conspiracy or whatever you want to say. It's no more theory based. It is actually working. They have a working version of persistence. I'm going to state that again. They have a working version of persistence. Right now, it's working. Not obviously in the latest build, but in their internal test builds, it is actually working. Now, there is a big difference between them doing this with 50 cans, an 890 jump, and an arrow, and say doing it with 50 people storing all sorts of stuff. And they did talk about that here. Obviously, this is only a small scale test, but here's the thing. The principle is working. This is big. This is no longer are we thinking of server meshing as a possibility, something that they might get, quote, all this sort of stuff. It's actually the roadmap to server meshing. That might not sound revolutionary to some of you. It does to me. But you can tell it was, again, asking Neil Armstrong to walk one small step. Persistence NSC comes online. Star Citizen will be a different universe, and they just talk about how it's going to be different, right? So, this will take place possibility, replication, blah, 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 blah. 2022 testing and release candidates. So, because of this, we're going to approach 3.8 differently in our previous releases. We're anticipating that 3.8 will require a much longer time in the Evocati and PTU phase than any previous releases. due to fundamental changes in how the game tracks state. This is not to be unexpected. I have long said that when they get server meshing and persistence up and running, it is going to be something that will need to be tested, right? Us gamers do all sorts of crazy, wacky things. You know, we try and fit anvil arrows in the back of Valkyries and stuff. Not me per se, but other people especially, right? At the end of the day, they need to obviously make sure that persistence is working and that it's not going to fundamentally crash the game. I don't have a problem with them taking their time and making sure persistence is working. It is the best idea that they could do right now. We all know we want to test it at scale in our experience, and we want to see the issues when we go from internal testing to Evocati to PTU, wave 1, and then wave 2, and so on. Players do some crazy things. Truth. No cap. And a lot of players create lots of crazy cases we had not considered, which expose bugs and edge cases. Our guess is that may be a longer than 3 months in the PTU stage, but it is hard to predict. For instance, the universe turned into a nightmare version of Wall-E because everyone just throws empty boxes on the ground. Most likely, we've already seen that already with the uniforms. The medical gowns. How many times have you walked out of a building or walked out of your hotel or your room and found the medical gowns just laying on the floor somewhere, like in a pile? Or dumping the 10 AI bodies that have looted in New Babbage Commons. We're working on a density manager to manage the objects that get recorded and clean up in the low priority ones. For instance, discarded empty bottles or cans when there are too many in one area, but we suspect also having implement AI janitors to perhaps even crime stats for littering and landing zones like New Babbage Rock, which I would be completely fine with. As it did not make much sense to engineer and revamp the physics cargo system and salvage for the old system, these two features have been engineered for PES, which I believe is the Persistence Entity Streaming. You want to rec some players to stick around so you can salvage and arrive in 3.18. However, we do not want engagement and content to stall because of Persistence Entity Streaming, requiring longer testing, so we're planning to release a content-rich alpha 3.17.2 patch with a known stable code, new missions, new locations, and other gameplay in late June. The vast majority of players, hundreds of thousands of them in fact, are here to simply play on live, and for them we want to keep them engaging new gameplay and adventures to enjoy simultaneously while we're testing the 3.8 scale on the PTU. The goal will be to get a 2 to 3 month testing of 3.18 in alpha for alpha 3.18 live in late Q3. I know many of you have been waiting for salvage, physicalized cargo, and persistence industry stream for a long time, and I'm excited to see that the home stretch is finally brought to you. I think the 3.18 will be an amazing update and even bigger game changer than 3.15. I agree. But we want to make sure we get proper time tests so that we can deliver to you the best quality possible. Alongside our persistence energy streaming work and engineering graphics, have been making progress on the second big tech incentive initiative that we've been working on the past 2 years, completing a physics engine with what we call Gen 12, and then they start talking about Gen 12. So as you might have guessed, we'll approach server meshing in much the same way that we're rolling out persistence entity streaming. Star Citizen Alpha 4.0 will be the true new era in Star Citizen. It will mean our final tech build block server meshing would have been delivered. The first implementation is what we call static server meshing, or SSM, which will be where each server is given a defined area to simulate. As soon as SSM is stable, we'll move towards dynamic server meshing. This is backing up everything that I have been told for years now. I've You go through all the old videos. I told you they were doing server meshing static, and then they were going to do dynamic. Right? Everything that my guy has told me has been exactly right so far. The subsequent release will allow much more scalability. With 4.0, our second star system, Pyro, and begin the process, blah, blah, blah. A current goal is introduce server and early preview in Ivacati in the PTU in the end of Q4 this year. Backing up once again what I was told. Static server meshing starts at the end of this year. I have been told we will see server meshing at CitizenCon, presuming there are no delays. We are going to see persistence and server meshing at CitizenCon from everything I am hearing. Take it with a grain of salt. It's rumors, stuff like that. Fine, true. But at the end of the day, everything I've heard so far has been accurate. But this persistence energy streaming rolls up. Yeah, so obviously depending on the PES goes. We are aiming at the end of Q1, but then again, we'll know confidence in this. Right, yep. So, yeah. So, static server meshing, end of this year, start of next year. Persistent entity streaming or persistence, Q3 of this year. But I've heard we're going to hear both at CitizenCon. And now the reason, okay, so this is the graph they've provided, or the breakdown they provided. And it goes back to all the way to 3.18. Now the thing that really matters is here at 2022, we are here currently. All right. So they're doing the new workflow, stability and bug fixing. First build on the PTU. So that's the plan to deliver the first working version of persistent streaming. That is the 3.18 build, which is likely to be Q3 of this year. Persistence and industry streaming, 3.18, there it is there. That will be the live build, no doubt. So sorry, that'll be Q3. DGS server node split, and then server meshing tech preview, and that here is the very first server meshing prototype, aimed to get an early tech preview into PTU end of this year. And like I say, they'll probably do a 3-month test once it hits the PTU. So we're looking at server meshing being live, say the March 2023. And then obviously once server meshing static is up and running, then obviously they'll start planning and working on dynamic server meshing. But guys, obviously this is very big news. I know, look, some people are going to be upset about the fact that that cargo refactor and salvage was delayed. To be honest, it makes complete sense that they're waiting for persistence to come in. It is just a waste of time going through and bringing in salvage now and then having to refactor it to take into account for persistence. And we are obviously going to get the 3.17.2 patch that will most likely drop in July. June, July. Was it January, February, March, April, May, June? June. Drop at the end of June. Which is going to give us like missions and stuff like that. Missions and you know, obviously more towards Gen 12 and stuff like that, I presume. And I presume we'll also have the start of persistence starting to come in. Them starting to add some of the background code and stuff for 3.18. But guys, let me know what your thoughts are in that comment section below. This is really big news. This is amazing. This is the start of a functioning universe that is persistent and the start of server meshing. It really can't be underestimated how important this really is. But guys, let me know what your thoughts are in that comment section below. Obviously, this video has been helpful. Please smack that like button. If you're new to the channel, welcome and subscribe. We're trying to get Fez. He's got 3 hours tomorrow before work. So we're trying to get him maybe for that. Or it'll be later in the week. Maybe. I'm not sure. But Fez and I are going to talk about this probably and have a discussion over it. We might live stream it. Yeah, so obviously like, comment, subscribe. Obviously the link to his details are obviously his channel, his Twitch and stuff, YouTube channel and stuff. It's obviously in the description below. But guys, apart from that, have a great night, enjoy yourself, and we'll see you in the universe.